the website and in the forthcoming book, who've already talked about all of this. And that Abraham, his father, for instance, Abraham's father was Terah, T-E-R-A-H, which is very close to the Irish Celtic Tara.
Yeah.
So if anything, if one really wanted to draw some major conclusions, there's equal evidence for saying that he had Celtic ancestry than anything else.
Yeah.
But the actual fact of the matter is that the patriarch Abraham, in exactly the same way as his descendants, Jacob, Isaac, and Joseph, and these individuals, what the sum of my work regarding this is that, no, they were not in any sense, wanderers out of Canaan who just happened to turn up in Egypt, but that these individuals were themselves a very powerful pharaonic dynasty that had arrived in Egypt in the 13th dynasty. It's about 1700 years BC. And the group that I'm talking about was known as the Hyksos people, Hyksos. And this word Hyksos was deliberately misinterpreted by Egyptologists and people who studied Egypt for many, many years, for many decades. And so the Hyksos was never paid any mind until more recently with the work of Mustafa Gadala and Ahmed Osman, and also a man called Ralph Ellis, the English writer Ralph Ellis, who also, cracked the code. And basically, it's amazing too, because the first person, one of the early people who actually tried to expose a lot of this was actually the great Sigmund Freud, believe it or not. Yeah, the German psychologist.
Yeah.
Was one of his last books, written in 1930, I think, was a book that talked about Moses, trying to prove that Moses and Akhenaton were the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, we have this information. And do you know that the great Immanuel Velikovsky, another one of the great, probably the most suppressed scholar of all time, he also wrote a book on Moses and the Akhenaten concept. So there has been books and literature out there that have totally refuted the official stories that were told about these patriarchs of Judaism, the patriarchs of Islam, because don't forget that Abraham is considered the patriarch of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam.
Yes.
So we are dealing with something very powerful here. And the ignorance factor is very, very high. People have just taken on faith a certain amount of stuff. Now, the Abraham, in short, just to answer your question, turns out to be a pharaoh from the Hyksos dynasty that lived in the northwest part of the Delta region in Egypt and was an extremely wealthy and very powerful pharaonic individual with a court and with his own dynasty, with his own coterie. And it has now come to light through the work of these authors that I'm mentioning that there were these, what are known as Israelite pharaohs of Egypt. Yeah, and this is later on, in order to hide and disguise this, that the Bible, which is nothing but a book of Freemasonry, the Bible is nothing but a pharaoh's book. It's a book about pharaohs, written by pharaohs, originally. Because they say that Moses is the writer or author of the first five books of the Bible, the Pentateuch, the Torah. Well, listen up. If it can be proven, as the great Sigmund Freud was stating, and as Immanuel Velikovsky and as other writers, and now as I'm working on to fill in the details, to sort of give the, I'm trying to, restoring the frieze to bring the colors more into vividness, and explain in a modern context.
Sure.
If it turns out that Moses was in fact Akhenaten, one of the most powerful pharaohs who ever lived, then we got to understand once and for all that there's nothing Judaic about the Bible. The Bible is a book of the pharaohs written by the pharaohs and later edited, tweaked, skewed by the Francis Bacons, you see, and the Josephus and the other editors who wrote on the Bible were merely fixing it and hiding it and concealing it and changing it, because there's been hundreds of translations even of just one single passage. So we must understand that when we pick up a Bible today from the table, it is certainly not the Bible of the ancient world. There are so many translations. But, from day one, what we have to understand when it comes to the questioning of all of this, is that we have from the writings of the great leaders of the secret societies themselves and their commenters. So I don't care if it's Madame Blavatsky or if it's Giuseppe Mazzini of the Illuminati or Albert Pike or if it comes from the Duke of Brunswick. We have writings or George Washington. We have from their own writings statements that say we are not the head. We are subservient to forces that are unseen, that operate above us. So my interest, especially inspired by people like Jordan Maxwell and so on, has been to discover who and what are these people that they're talking about. Let's discover what this is. With one hand, I'm very concerned about who desecrated my country and brought it to the state of misery, spiritual ruin that it is in, this great solar church, went on there came from Atlantis, and I'm fully aware of the power of that place, of Ireland. And at the other hand, I'm thinking about, well, who is this, overarching dominion that rules the other agents of the secret societies?
Yeah.
Well, and then I discovered, like I'm also trying to teach people now, is that the symbolism tells you, and the Egyptian symbolism stares out, does it not? The symbolism of these secret societies and the power that's above them is Egyptian in origin, and this should never be overlooked.
Exactly. And what do you say, Michael? Should we, take a little break? We're at the bottom of the hour, and maybe we should, do our little contest here. So.
Well, yeah, I think the first question that I was thinking about is a very simple one. It's on my website. We'll have to avoid mentioning it today on our show, just in case it comes up in conversation. But the question is, we're talking a lot about Egypt, and we're talking about the great pharaoh Akhenaten. And of course, we know that the wife of Akhenaten, most people who studied Egypt a little bit know that she was the wonderful, famous, beautiful Nefertiti. But my question to people in the contest is, can you call in and tell us who was the mother of Nefertiti? So that's the question for today. Who's the mother of Nefertiti? And the first person who gets that answer correct will be able to pick the DVD of their choice, or they can have the Atlantis, the first, as you say, the first DVD.
Yeah, of course we can do any way we want to do it here. So, that's a bit about...
Open, and the questions are going to be real simple.
Yeah.
Just want people to encourage to get into this information.
Exactly. And let me again give out the details for anyone calling in here. You can call toll-free 1-877-876-5227. Again, that's 1-877-876-5227. And, of course, make sure to leave your address to Don at bbsradio.com before you come on, so we can send you the DVD, and also we'll announce the winners on red-ice.net, and maybe also on Michael's blog. I don't know, and simply go to Michael's site, which is www.taroscopes.com to find the appropriate links to his blog and all the things that we are discussing here today. And
to michaeltsarion.com. It's an easy way to see all the different websites that I have.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Just go to michaeltsarion.com. They can do that. And yeah, absolutely remember to leave your exact address so that we can get the item off to you.
Yeah, of course. And also...
there's one, if we have a moment...
Yeah, sure.
Because in this first show, it's good to set the overview of where we're going.
Yeah.
We have to realize something very important about these controllers. The Illuminati. Let's get this one thing really clear in context of the Vatican. The Illuminati was created and founded, or at least officially founded, by the guy Adam Weishaupt. Adam Weishaupt was a Jesuit priest, and he never left that order, nor did he refute it in his life.
Yeah.
So right there, we have to discover something very bizarre. When we go to the earliest writings of the founder of Protestantism, Martin Luther, we see Rosicrucian symbolism on the front cover of the books. So we've got questions. And we have questions as to why it is that the Catholic Church at that time, the Vatican, who annihilated people by sword and by flame, who indulged themselves in 100 years' war of total slaughter throughout Europe, who indulged themselves in a 30-year war of total slaughter throughout Europe, that all historians know, and who were the most intolerant, barbarous popes on existence, who slaughtered and murdered in wars from the time of their inception. Why is it that they would allow a single man to go up and nail onto one of their chapel doors a petition of the 50 edicts of change, and just let the guy sort of wander through Europe free? I got a question why that would be. They didn't like you. They'd hung, draw, and quarter you, okay? They put a nail through the tongue of Giordano Bruno, one of the greatest scholars that have ever graced this planet. They took him down to the center of the square and burned him at the stake and put a nail through the guy's tongue. That's how they deal with people who are against them. Now, Martin Luther was no Giordano Bruno. Not even close. So then you tell me why Luther and Wesley and Knox and Calvin, John Calvin, whose real name actually was John Cohen, he was of Jewish extraction, and Adam Weishaupt and these people were allowed to move towards Protestantism and allowed to do what they do. There's a very simple reason for that. Now, coming to the Illuminati itself, once we understand firmly that the Illuminati is a Vatican agent, a lieutenant operating in the world with a specific agenda, and the reason is, very briefly, is because Catholicism knew at the time of the creation of the Illuminati, and at the time of the creation of Protestantism, that it was losing favor throughout the world, and that the princes and the dukes and the royalty of the world were getting very fed up with the way that bishops were running things, the corruption of the church, and they knew that they might have a rival. That rival might be paganism arising again, you see. And they knew that they may be rivaled very seriously, and this was a deep concern for them. So like we said in the early part of the program, they created their own opposition to catch the same fish in the net. Just in case anyone would branch away, they'll create the branch to which people will walk.
Exactly. It's so simple.
As George Maxwell has said so many times, there's not an ounce of difference in the symbolism or the teachings, really, between Judaism, Catholicism, and Protestantism. Merely shades of the same color. Now, here's the interesting thing about the Illuminati that I want to establish. Because it was something that I looked at very deeply, because everyone knows about the famous degrees of Freemasonry and the 33rd degree, and there's speculation, of course, that there's 74 degrees, everything goes on further. But let's understand one thing. If anyone picks up a book on the Illuminati and looks at the Illuminati, they have the famous 8 degrees. And the reason why they have 8 is because they're solar in nature. 8 is the famous number of the sun. Like the old pirates, pieces of 8. It used to be gold coins, because gold is like the sun, called pieces of 8. 8 has always been connected to the sun. You only have to go and look at a Shell station today. When you look at a Shell station, you see the symbol of the shell, and you understand that that is really the symbol of the rising sun, not a shell. The sun with 8 rays on a red background, just like the dawn in the morning when the sun rises on the eastern horizon. That's the symbol that you're seeing on a Shell gas station, because that's Dutch Royal Shell, controlled by British monarchy, and their symbol is an 8-rayed sunbeam. Because 8 is very important to these people. And the 8th panel, I think there's 8 solar panels on the window above 10 Downing Street and so on. But the interesting thing is that in the Illuminati 8 degrees, the 4th degree, Henrik, is Freemason. Okay? So we're only halfway up the scale, and then they say that the degree of the Illuminati includes the Freemasons. When you go up to the very top, the supreme degree of mastery in the Illuminati was called Rex, R-E-X. And many scholars know this. Many people have seen this chart. You can get online and you can see this, Why have never anybody questioned what that word means? The word Rex in anybody's, dictionary means king.
King,
does it not? So why is it that the chief Freemasonic motto throughout the world, which is also found on courts and other places, is Per me regnus regnant? Through me, kings will reign. And then we find that the word king is at the top of the Freemasonic, not the Freemasonic degrees, but the Illuminati degrees. This is a super secret order. Their own highest rank is Rex, the king. What king? Who would this king be? And why even use the term king of all of the many kings? Oh, I thought this was meant to be some sort of Protestant organization. See?
Never.
Didn't kind of go in for all of that stuff. But no, we find that there's royal symbols, crowns, crosses and crowns.
It's the same.
It's not a Masonic symbol that you can see.
It's
whether
the
it's
same all the
time. Crown or the Masonic double-headed eagle that doesn't have the crown at the top of it.
It's
right. Heraldry and so on. I am here to tell people who that crown belongs to. It was Akhenaten. And my work verges away from the other writers on this subject of the 18th dynasty, because I do not lionize this character and do not believe he was the great sort of proto-Christ. The good guy before Jesus came on the scene, who tried to get it right and tried to get all those, devil-worshipping pagans into line and create the first monotheism. What a guy. No, the story of the man's desecration and heresy is unrivaled in the world. I'm one of the few